Hey yo, what it do, what it do? It's your boy Q, and when it comes down to the Birmingham Major for RLCS, it's about that time we get down and do what it do. We're just a few days away from getting things kicked off, and y'all know I'm going to try and pop a watch party as much as my casting schedule does allow, so feel free to pull up, but I figured let's go ahead and do some pick'ems. Y'all know how I like to do, raw and unscripted. I've seen the Swiss first round released, but honestly, didn't really look into it that deep. My casting's been keeping me pretty busy between high school and college, but let's go and get down to it. But before we do, I always want to make sure we're giving a big shout out to @CodyVRL on Twitter. Always coming through huge for the community. True GOAT. Go ahead and make sure you show some love, but let's go ahead and get down and do what it do. Of course, the first round is the first of many. I feel like the first round always goes just about how we're all expecting, but let's go ahead and get down into it. I feel like Karmine Corp versus Wildcard. We can expect Karmine Corp to come out on top. I think the real question is how many games can Wildcard take off them? Because we've seen Wildcard has been looking pretty dominant over in OCE. I feel like every single major we get to this point with this roster that had previously been on power in the past, we're like, hey, is this the time that they're able to crack into the top 8? Karmine Corp's a pretty hard draw in round number 1. I think Wildcard maybe get 1 if they're lucky. So let's go ahead and give me a 3-1 win as far as for Karmine Corp. NRG and Gen G. Should also be a banger. It's funny how these two teams always seem to cross paths no matter, what roster as far as NRG is on, but just the NRG, G2, Gen G rivalry as far as NNA, you've got to love it, even if it is with some different rosters, at least as far as with some different changes. Still definitely some top contending teams. Gen G, though, I don't think they're going to be able to come out on top. I think when we talk about LAN for NRG, yeah, we've seen them have some slow starts online. I just don't see them going the same route on LAN. I feel like they're going to come in prepared. I don't think that they're going to have the same slow start mentality that not mentality, but that same sort of slow start sort of tradition that we've been seeing from them in those online qualifiers. I think also for NRG, kind of stumbling a little bit there towards the end of things, kind of wakes them up, lets them know they got to make sure they're coming in on their P's and Q's. I do think Secret loses their first round to Falcons. Don't be surprised if Secret's a low-key contender this, or maybe not contender is the best way to put them. A low-key surprise team on a lot of people's pick'ems. I know everyone's gonna be talking about Furia out of Sam. Team Secret did take Furia the distance 2 out of the 3 times that they played them in the playoff format during those regionals. I think they've got a pretty solid roster. Furia level, no, but when you look at KV1, Mata, Swift, you got to think that they're probably going to turn some heads. I don't know if they get top 8, but I do think that they perform quite well for a number 2 seed from Sam. This next game, though, that's where I think things get really interesting in round number 1, because I know I said earlier NRG, I didn't expect them to have the same slow starts. I guess you could almost argue the same talk for Vitality. They've had some surprises, some upsets, so you may call them, as far as early on in the split. Haven't quite performed to what I think a lot of people were expecting for the super team that was formed. Zen, Exotic, Monkey Moon, when you compare them to a roster of Nalpo, Rise, Atomic, I think it would be easy to go in favor of Vitality. I think Vitality stumbles a little bit out the gate. I do think this is a close one. I think Twisted Minds take it in 5. But I do think I got to give the nod to Twisted Minds in that first round matchup. As I talked about earlier, for those Sam teams, a lot of people are going to be looking towards Furia over Chiefs. I do think that that's probably going to be a sweep. It's interesting to see that's going to be the first sweep I've predicted thus far, because we usually do see a decent amount of sweeps, I feel like, in our 0-0 bracket, our first bracket of the every single Swiss stage. Chiefs have looked all right over in OCE. A lot of ups and downs when you compare them to Furia. Yans lost, Jaffinho, a roster we all know. I think a lot of people put Furia as kind of a top 3 to top 5 sort of contender right now in those power rankings. I just don't think Chiefs have what it takes to be able to take them down. Again, I'm not even sure they're able to take a game. So for that reason, I'm going to give Furia the sweep here. This next matchup is also interesting, though. You're talking about Dignitas, the number 3 seed, I do believe, as far as EU rankings, versus Complexity. Complexity, I do feel like, is a team in a lot of people's power rankings, hasn't quite gotten the love and respect for the consistency that we've seen from them. I think the consistency that we've seen from them, the reason it's not getting favors, I don't think a lot of people see NA's depth the same way that I see NA's depth. Maybe not the best top talent, as say maybe in the EU region, but I do feel like when you look at NA, honestly, probably 4 through 16, a lot closer than a lot of people think. I might even argue 3 through 16. For real, no, probably 4 through 16. A lot closer than a lot of people think in NA. Honestly, I think I got to go with Complexity over Dignitas. I do think that Dignitas keeps it close. I think that's going to be a 5-game banger. But I think I got to give the nod to Complexity in that one. Ultimates over Luminosity. Would like to see this Luminosity squad maybe be able to pick up a series. Probably going to be in that O2 bracket. As far as how many individual games they can pick up, I'm not really sure, but I don't think that I see them being able to take one off of the team of Chronic, First Killer, and LJ. I think Ultimates have shown, again, another team in NA that have shown a really nice consistency. A low-key quiet consistency, you might even say, right? Like, I feel like not really talked about often. Obviously, people often talking about NRG. Also talking about teams like Space Asian Gaming, who did falter in Open number 2, which is the reason they're not here. But I feel like Ultimate's a team that have been low-key slept on. We'll see how their pick'ems go. I'll kind of give you a heads up. They are a team that I think can go quite far. We'll have to kind of see what their matchups look like as we go along the way. Last one in round number 1, GK versus Foot. I think a lot of people call him GK. I think I'd heard somewhere that it's GK. We'll go GK, actually, because that just sounds more like it. I do think they take the sweep against Foot. Not for the same reasons that I think a lot of other people who are doing their pick'ems showing a lot of disrespect towards Foot. I know there's probably a lot of people who would think that I'd feel some type of way being somebody who was previously on the SSA desk last season in their first split. And then even being, on the Limitless desk this split over in SSA as well. Do I like the rule? No, I don't. I'm also the type of person that generally says, don't hate the player, hate the game. Maybe it's because it's someone who almost went and played, sports overseas, understands the whole import thing. I do think there should be an import rule. Personally, I agree with what a lot of people are throwing out there, the 2/3 rule. But I do think when you look at the players, the coach, Armonic, along with Torres, Leoro, VK Salen, we've had some other imports who have come through who have maybe not had quite the same sort of reputation. There was that one team who tried to challenge everyone's intelligence by saying because of like a hardware issue, their game sense and awareness went from like fringe bubble team to looking like the middle schoolers ICAST here in Pennsylvania. But I think when you look at otherwise how they've acted, in their interviews and everything after games, it feels like you could definitely have asked for people who, there could be a lot worse representation as far as for the brand, for the region. I personally, again, would really like to see SSA players representing SSA, even if it is some sort of like mixed roster rule. Kind of like you would say as far as with like LG, it does at least have Sphinx, right? I would like to see something like that. But as far as with how the rules work now, again, it could be much worse. I feel like the players get a little bit too much hate, but maybe that's just me. But let me go ahead and get off my soapbox. Let's go ahead and keep on moving forward as far as into that next round. Up in the 1-0 round, we've got Karmine Corp versus Complexity. As much as I talked about the consistency for Complexity, Karmine a different beast. Maybe takes a game, but I do definitely got to lean towards Karmine as far as that one. NRG versus Twisted Minds. Definitely incredibly interesting because I do feel like Twisted Minds is going to have a really strong LAN. I saw him have the one win against Falcons. However, it wasn't when it mattered the most. obviously, right? But when we talk about for them, or no, they didn't have the one in Open 2. That was the Game 7. But otherwise, some of their other wins against them have been like in group stages and stuff. But they did win the one Open in Open number 2. I do also think when you look at the roster for Twisted Minds, again, Rise, Atomic, two teams, two players that I think consistently have shown that they have the ability to perform on land. Of course, I've said all of this just for me to lean towards NRG's way. No, I think I'm going to go with 1 for Twisted Minds instead of 2. But I do think NRG takes that. I think Falcons does take the win over GK Esports. I think Falcons are going to come in on a mission. And I know that's weird saying after Secret. I think the series against Secret wakes them up and makes sure that they don't or underestimate any of their other opponents moving forward. Furia versus Ultimates, though. That's a fun one. Because I do low-key have Furia as a top contender to win the whole thing. I think there's a very high chance that this is a major where we don't see an NA or EU team lift the trophy. And Furia is on a short list there as far as teams that I can see doing that. However, Ultimates, First Killer, Chronic, LJ, I talked about earlier, have shown a really good sense of consistency. I think it goes the distance. I do think, though, I've got to favor Fury on that one. Have them over Ultimates 3-2. Down in the 0-1 side of brackets, Vitality versus Foot. Again, no offense to Foot as far as giving them no games here, but you're playing Vitality, big dog. That's just a different beast. Vitality here, due to an upset over Twisted Minds, I think they'll have a point to prove. Unfortunately, that puts you in the crosshairs on the other side of the field. That's going to be a quick series there. Dignitas over Luminosity. I do think Dignitas take that. Luminosity, I think this is where you're able to steal maybe a game, potentially 2, because I do think this Luminosity squad is solid. I mean, Sphinx, Catalysm, Sosa. I don't know why I almost forgot Sosa. I think I'm going to give Luminosity 1 there. Wildcards versus Chiefs. This really shouldn't be a surprise to see Wildcard as a team that comes out on top there. It's a regional matchup, one that Wildcard comes out on top of almost every single time. I expect it to be the same way in the 0-1 bracket, allowing Wildcard to get their first win as they do look to try and secure themselves OCE's first top 8 in a while. Gen G versus Team Secret. That's an interesting one in 0-1 scenario, isn't it? Does Gen G go 0-2, catching themselves sleeping against Team Secret? I tend to think not. I do think that one goes the distance, though. I would not be surprised to see that one go to game number 5. That's a tough one to call. I think that's what I have to roll with, though, for now. So let's go ahead and start sending some teams into the playoffs. Karmine Corp, Furia. I think Furia takes 1, but I do think Karmine Corp sweeps their way a very quick way through the Swiss. And NRG versus Falcons. Again, I did mention earlier, I think that there's a good chance that this is a major where we do not see an NA or EU team hoist the trophy. I think it's a banger of a series for a Swiss series, but go ahead and give me Falcons in 5. Meanwhile, on the 1-1 side of the bracket, we've got Twisted Minds, we've got Dignitas. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Twisted Minds 3-1. I think I'm going to give Complexity a game over Team Vitality. Ultimates, Gen G. Do you think I got to favor the Ultimates in that one? Just a little bit again, just be based off the consistency that we have seen from the Ultimates. I know Gen G had their nice run to be able to qualify. I'm sure that they're going to have a little bit of a high running off of that. But to be able to carry that over into land, into round number 3, I just don't see it. I got to go based off of performances that we've seen in the past. Go ahead and give me Ultimates. GK versus Wildcard is interesting. Had it been before open number 3, where GK was able to sweep their way through Championship Sunday. Might have had other things in mind. I think also, too, because Wildcard stumbled a little bit. What was that? Open number 2, I do believe, as far as for Wildcard. They came up short. I think Wildcard has the potential. But I also think that this is Archie and Joyo on LAN. And I just don't see them falling to an OCE team. So go ahead and give me them 3-1. Secret versus Foot. You know, I talked up Foot about how they weren't such a bad representative for SSA, and I'm about to sweep them out of this thing. But it is kind of off of the back of a tough draw. Because again, I am a believer in Team Secret. Yeah, I just don't know if I can see them picking up a game there. I just can't. We'll have to roll with that. Sorry, Foot Esports. As far as Chiefs and Luminosity, a banger of an elimination series, OCE 2 versus APAC. I had said at the top of the season, I thought APAC was Luminosity's region to lose. They did prove me right in that. They were able to win their way through things out. They were kind of the favorites to me walking into the season. I know a lot of people were looking over at Elevate thinking something similar. But is this where Luminosity is able to pick up a series win for APAC over OCE 2? I think so. Go ahead and give me them 3-2. Let's go ahead and slide over just a little bit more so I can show you all the rest of this bracket. Bye-bye. All right. NRG Vitality for a qualifier match in round number 4. I do think Vitality is going to have to fall to round number 5. I think NRG avoids it. Although I can very well see this going the opposite way. I think if I follow my heart, it's telling me no. Furia will not fall to GK, that's for sure. I will give GK 1 though. And then Twisted Minds versus Ultimates is intriguing. Again, I think Twisted Minds shows that Mina is for real. I think the imports have opened things up a little bit. That'll be my 5-game series in the top side of the bracket. But I think I'm going to roll towards Twisted Minds. So that means we've got thus far in Karmine Corp, Falcons, NRG, Furia, Twisted Minds as well. Let's go ahead and send 3 teams home before that 5th and final round. Complexity going to be able to go probably 3-0 over at Luminosity. I think Complexity plays a disciplined enough game against a team that they also consistently will be, I think, faster against on the pitch, despite the fact that they play a disciplined, not very fast game. Wild Card versus Team Secret. Ugh. I feel like I've got more faith in Wildcard than Team Secret here. But Secret has shown some potential. Now, I got to roll with Wildcard. Matter of fact, I'm going to go 3-2 on that, though. Gen G and Indignitas sending one of our 2-3 seeds home in the 4th round. I think I got to go with history. History tells me that the EU 3 seed generally better than the NA 3 seed. Go ahead and give me a 3-1. Sending Dignitas into that 2-2 bracket. Dignitas will be playing up against GK, Appjack, Joria's Stizzy versus Lan, Joyo, and Archie with Oli. Go and give me GK. Going the distance into 2. Wildcard got a tough draw, man. I don't see them getting past Vitality. Honestly, I don't even know if I see them getting a game off of Vitality. I think Vitality sweeps that one. And then Complexity versus Ultimates. That definitely makes things interesting because Complexity and the Ultimates, I do believe, have crossed paths twice already, but they were very early on the split. They were split series. In the best of 5, Complexity won, but when things matter the most in NA number 2 in the playoffs, Ultimates came out on top. I think I got to roll with them here as well. I think that one's 3-1. So that gives us... Oop. Let's go ahead and move on down to our playoff bracket then. Playoffs, or the main event. Get on down to it. All best of 7s from here on out. Karmine Corp versus Twisted Minds. Go ahead and give me Karmine Corp in 6. Yeah, give me Karmine Corp in 6. Falcons versus NRG again in the upper back bracket quarterfinals. Go and give me NRG this time around. I do think it's a banger. Sets us up for a potential grand finals rematch if both teams are able to make their way through their potential halves of the bracket. Give me MRG. Go ahead and give me NRG and 7. Let's go ahead and run through this lower bracket round here. Furia versus Complexity. Probably 4-2, I gotta say, for Furia. Complexity, I might even be being generous with the 2 there, honestly. But, we'll roll with that. We'll roll with that. Vitality over GK. GK. You had a good run. You got here probably when you shouldn't have. But this is where you're over. I think especially once we do get to that main event bracket, Vitality locks it in. They're going to have a tough draw against Falcons next. I think they at least are going to be able to take down GK. Crazy to think we're top 6 here at this point, and we've got ourselves 2 MENA squads. Is there a chance that MENA sends 2 to the top 4? Has that ever happened? I don't think that's ever happened. Actually, I don't think we've ever had 2. Have we ever had 2 MENA teams even top 8? Anyways, both of these, honestly, if this is the bracket that we get for the main event, sign me up, because this just looks like banger central for the rest of this thing. I did say I had belief in Twisted Minds turning some heads, but I did also mention how I think Furia is one of my top contenders to win the whole thing. I think because of that, give me Furia in 6 one more time. They will unfortunately have to square off against NRG in that semifinals. Falcons versus Vitality. Vitality just has not looked up to snuff for what I was expecting from them going into this season. With that being said, am I crazy enough to vote against what everyone was calling the French super team, Zen, Exotic, Monkey Moon, on LAN against Falcons? I know Falcons did good as far as that FIFA E. That was on home soil. We can only give them so many opportunities before we are expecting them to win one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead and give me Vitality in 7. Setting up for 2 French teams squaring off in the semifinals on one side of things, and then a North America and South America squad on the other side. NRG versus Furia. Oh, this is so hard because I know I always feel like I'm voting against NA when it matters the most. But Atomic Beast Mode and Daniel have at times shown me some things to be concerned about. Do I feel like they can probably lock in by this point in the tournament? Yeah, there's definitely a good chance of that. But there's also a good chance that by this point in the tournament, because of the run that Furia has gone on, the teams that they've had to beat to get here, they're riding more of a wave than NRG is at this point. I can't do it, man. NA on top. Go ahead and make that a banger. 7-game banger. Sending NRG to the grand finals. Who do they play against is the real question. Can Karmine Corp continue plugging and chugging away after such a dominant split? I mean, this is a team that has gone first, second. Their second was a GK and it was a sweep. I feel like that loss in Open 3 does take off the pressure of having a perfect split. They will be going against a team that everyone kind of considered to be the French super team, although you could argue both of these two teams are. The super teams that got put together over the course of the offseason, right? Of course, Karmine Corp isn't a full French roster, but you get what I'm saying. Other than the miracle run by GK, which I do feel like was more on GK what they had going right in their favor versus Karmine Corp not performing at their top when it came to the grand finals at Open number 3, has me believing based off of results thus far during the split that I can believe Karmine Corp's consistency will show through on LAN as well. I think I gotta take Karmine Corp. Go ahead and give it to me in 6 for me. Which gives us NRG versus Karmine Corp in our grand final. Question becomes, who calls themselves champion? NRG, who has stumbled at times in North America, which I think a lot of people would argue. I would say a lot of people wouldn't even argue. A lot of people would say nowhere near as strong as EU. Karmine Corp has shown more consistency in a region that has a more consistent top half of its teams. And I think I got to roll with the blue wall. What's the color? But I do think it's a banger of a grand finals. Give me 7. With some overtimes in there. Maybe 3 or 4 of them things. But Karmine Corp, come out on top as your grand champions. I think that's what I've got to roll with here. Let's pop on over to 1v1 tab just real quick. Of course, the only matchup that we have is Moxie versus Jans. I know Moxie's been hot out of EU, but I do got to roll with Jans. Give me Jans in 6. Small dub on the board for Furia. I'm sure they preferred it over in the main event. Furia walks away the top 4 though. So overall, pretty good weekend for the Orc. Still a strong performance for the French as well, sending 2 teams into the top 4. Mina has 2 teams in the top 6, despite sending no one into that top 2. I think this is a pretty solid pick'ems. It ain't about what I think. It's about what you guys think. So, you know, I feel like I made that look relatively easy. Like I said, I will be doing some watch parties as much as my casting schedule will allow at least. So definitely feel free to pull up over on Twitch. Let me know down in those comments below who you got taking the Birmingham Major though. Also feel free to let me know where I'm right, where I'm wrong. We'll talk it out, you know, down there in the comments. Remember those comments along with those likes tell YouTube you're rocking with the content and they should push it to more people. And if you are rocking with your boy, make sure you smack that subscribe button down below as we're closing in on that first 500. All right, but until we get to catch y'all back for the next one, man, don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love harder. It's your boy Q, signing out.